Pat Divilly, welcome to the Thought Room. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, and thank you for not butchering my name. I appreciate that.
I know, I was just saying to you, I can't say your name without feeling like I'm a leprechaun, because I was saying it wrong for the longest time. So Pat, you are a speaker, a mindset and personal mastery coach. You're the author of 3 books. You've got the 21-Day Jumpstart, Naked Paleo, Upgrade Your Life, and you're here in New York. You're actually working on your 4th book. Is that correct?
Yeah, I came out here for 10 days, so I was 5 days working on the book and then 5 days podcasting and catching up with good people like yourself. So yeah, that's some good research. Most people don't know the names of the first 2 books, so well done.
Yeah, so you were telling me a little bit about your newest book, but just briefly. So it's for people who are entrepreneurs and starting businesses?
Yeah, so it's called Startups and Downs, and it's kind of coming at the approach that most business books look at marketing, they look at sales, they look at delivery, customer experience, but they don't maybe look at the mental health side of running a business and sort of the challenges that come with that, whether it be imposter syndrome or fear or lack of clarity. So we kind of tackle it from 2 sides. We got like the struggles, and then we've got the antidote on the far side. So it's myself and my friend Owen Fitzpatrick. He's an incredible hypnotist, author, persuasion expert, TV personality. He's done a lot of stuff. So we come together fairly well. He's a prolific writer, so he keeps me on track and keeps me focused because I'm a little bit ADD. And we've kind of merged our 2 backgrounds and perspectives, and we're about 70% there with our first draft, so we're getting there. But we'll turn it around pretty quick, so we're hoping early next year to launch.
I love what you said about imposter syndrome, because that's something definitely that resonates with me and did resonate with me as I was starting my business. And I think that that's something that every single entrepreneur, or pretty much I would go as far to say anyone who's starting something new that maybe feels like, okay, I'm not the master of this yet. And there's that idea of fake it till you make it. What's been your experience with that imposter syndrome? Because you have a really interesting story, and you came from not a whole lot.
Yeah, I don't know, was it yourself I was talking to earlier in the week and saying some of these things are like layers to an onion, and sometimes you think you've worked through something and you're like, I've got this now. So I felt like at different times I've worked through imposter syndrome, but then it can rear its head at the strangest times. So it's kind of interesting. I could speak in front of a couple of thousand people and a week later be speaking in front of 20 in my local community center and feel like, I don't know if I deserve to be here. Who am I to stand on stage? That kind of thing. So it definitely rears its head all the time, but I think self-acceptance is probably the biggest part of imposter syndrome and kind of getting over that. For me, I came from a background of failing with my first 2 businesses, which were in fitness, and being a young guy that had a lot of ego and having all my ego attached to having to be somebody and be significant, become famous, become well known. I never had confidence in myself, and so I thought if other people believe in me, eventually I'll come to believe in myself. And so when I failed with those businesses, it was a real blow to the ego, and it was kind of, I was ashamed because I felt like my parents had given me good opportunities in life, and I came home at 24 with my tail between my legs, having failed. I was embarrassed, I was angry, I was frustrated, I was all these things. And from that stemmed a new business, which again was fitness, but it was a different perspective in that I recognized people's struggles mental health wise, and I really tackled it from that side of things. And I said, I'm going to help people believe in themselves, and I'm going to help people feel a sense of belonging and not feel isolated. So I used to be the douchey personal trainer that would stand beside you in the gym and just count your reps. And you'd pay me and I'd say 5 and 6 and great job, Hallie. What did you do at the weekend? You know, that was as far as it went. And I did that and I wondered why it didn't work. And then when I came home, I said, look, I'm going through struggle. Obviously other people are going through struggle. And I didn't know how to verbalize any of these things back then. I just knew I felt isolated. I knew I felt lost, depressed, isolated, alone, all these things. And I said, surely if I feel it, other people are experiencing that too. And so I started a fitness class, and the fitness class was an outdoor class down on the local beach. And in Ireland, where I'm from, it rains 300 days a year. So it's not the romantic idea that a beach class in California or somewhere might be. But it was all about community, bringing people together, making people feel a part of something. And in the space of 12 months, I went from 5 clients to 500 clients. I opened a gym. I brought out my first book. So I had a lot of success, quote unquote, very quick. And so, yeah, the imposter syndrome thing started coming up because suddenly I'm being asked to speak on stages. I'm being asked to, and I would never go to school, never go to college if there was a presentation to be done. I was that afraid of public speaking. I was a super shy guy. Social media allowed me to put myself out there in a way that was curated, I suppose, to make me look like I was outgoing. But then suddenly when you're asked to go and speak in public, or you meet people in public and they're like, oh, I'm a huge fan of what you do. I'm like, oh, thank you. And I don't know what to say to them. So I've definitely had to experience that coming up. I would see people that had not built a business yet, that had huge confidence. And then on the flip side, I'd built this really successful thing, done a load of cool stuff. You know, we raised $250,000 for local charities. We built schools out in Nepal. Despite all this external success, doing TV, doing radio, everything I thought I ever wanted, I had done. And I still felt a little bit of that imposter syndrome. And I still do from time to time, but I've really overcome it through, I suppose, journaling, meditation, all the things we always talk about. And the process there has just been getting to know myself and saying, you know, I'm good enough as I am. I don't need a business for me to be good enough. It's just a kind of proxy of what I do. It's almost the flip side now. Like the stuff I do doesn't, you know, people say, oh, you do such and such. And I'm like, yeah, it's just part of my job. It's not like a big deal. You know, TV is just part of my job. Whereas back then when I was starting out, I thought, oh, I got to be a TV person now rather than be myself on the TV. What's your experience with imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely relate to a lot of that. And I was just thinking about a story actually that you told me the other day with your staff. I'll share my experience, but I just loved that story. You said you had a group of people come to see you and you did your talk, and then you just kind of were like, okay, I'm done. And they were like, no, Pat, you got to go say hi to people. And you're like, oh, no, they don't, you know, they don't want to talk to me. And they're like, no, Pat, they paid to come.
I was oblivious. There's like 150 people in the room. And they're like, I was like, why are they standing around waiting? They're like, they want to talk to you. I'm like, really? I'm like, no, I don't think so. And he's like, Pat, they stood there for half an hour in the line waiting to talk to you. I'm like, oh. And in retrospect, those people could have thought that I was being ignorant, but I was just oblivious to that, and it just didn't make sense to me. But yeah.
And I think that with imposter syndrome, it's like it's a process of alchemy. I mean, we're learning while we're in it. That's the whole thing. And you're never gonna feel, I don't know, I don't think I'm ever gonna feel like, yeah, I've done it, because there's always gonna be something else to learn. There's always going to be something that I don't know. I mean, that's what's so exciting about life, is you can just consistently get better. And what I've done has changed so drastically over the last couple of years that it's like, yeah, it's hard to feel like an expert in anything when you're just constantly pivoting and growing and changing and spilling into a new role. I mean, so definitely that's been my experience with imposter syndrome.
And not to knock on anyone or not to be judgmental, maybe it is judgmental, but the more successful people I've gotten close to or gotten around, the more flawed individuals I've seen. And so I think I used to think that everybody had their ducks in a row and had things organized if they looked successful, but that was just, again, a curated version of themselves. And so you get close to these people that you have on pedestals and you see maybe things aren't good at home, or maybe they don't have real confidence in themselves, or maybe they don't look after their health, or whatever it might be. And that gives you a bit of, you know, it gives you compassion for them and for yourself, because you're like, none of us are, whatever level of success you achieve in any area, people are flawed. And I've noticed that myself recently. You know, I've kind of caught myself on that sometimes I have someone on a pedestal and I feel let down by them, but then I have to check myself and say, well, that was me that decided they're supposed to have it all figured out. That wasn't fair to me. They never said that. Maybe I felt like they painted that picture, but no one's got it all figured out. And I think when you accept that, when you see that up close, I've gotten so close to some of my heroes and just being like, wow, they're the exact same as me. More messed up in some ways, less messed up in other ways, but we're the exact same. That gives you a bit of freedom from the imposter thing. And the other thing is recognizing that if you feel imposter syndrome, it's because you think you're supposed to be something different than you are. So the first time I went on TV, I suddenly started thinking, okay, I'm a fitness personality now. Not thinking I'm Pat, I'm just a fitness personality now. So I was like, oh shit, I'm not tanned. I'm supposed to be tanned. Oh, I don't have a six-pack at the moment. I'm supposed to have a six-pack. Like, what does the fitness guy wear? Okay, I'm supposed to wear these kind of clothes. not thinking at the time, they're bringing me on the TV because I've got a following, and I've got a following because I do things my own way. I started putting myself in a box, and I'd go on the TV and I'd get the bus home and just feel like, damn, I let myself down there. I didn't show up as myself. I let myself down and I let the other people down.
What is that? I'm curious about that when you say I didn't show up as myself, because I've experienced that, but I'm curious, what is your opinion of what that feels like? Like, how does one know that they showed up for something and, oh, I actually wasn't myself, I was somebody else?
So I suppose you could look at it like love and fear. So love is, I think, we talk about imposter syndrome. I think one of the ways we can recognize us at our best is see the things you admire in other people. So the people you have on a pedestal, there's certain traits that they show, and they're just reflecting those traits back at you. So one of mine is Richard Branson. And I looked at him and I said, he's playful and he's confident and he's inspiring and he's a family person and he's charitable and he's creative. And I had him on a pedestal for a long time. And then I got to hang out with him a couple of times. And I was like, wait a second, that's me when I'm at my best. So I can be all those things. That's me in love. When I'm in fear, I'm anxious, I'm insecure, I'm nervous, I've got imposter syndrome, all these things. And I think you recognize to some degree when you have let yourself down. And that's harsh. That might sound harsh to let yourself down, but when you haven't allowed yourself to shine, maybe it's when you're too in your head and you're thinking too much about the perception of the other person. Like, what are they thinking of me in this moment? So like you say, for me, I ended up getting an 8-week TV stint, and that was my first run on the TV. And I was like, I was never supposed to be on TV. This was like, I'm the shy guy from Galway that's never supposed to be anything outside of like a normal 9 to 5 and stuff. And so I'd drive down there and I'd start thinking, okay, how do I need to paint myself or portray myself? I'd look at previous fitness experts that had been on TV, and I started just really trying to craft what that looked like. And I'd bite my tongue when I'd be asked questions, because I'd think it was almost unfair, because I'd get frustrated. I'd say, they don't want to hear the real answers. They just want to hear about broccoli and sit-ups. You know, so they'd ask me questions and I'd tailor the answer. I wouldn't give them what I thought. I'd give them what I thought they wanted to hear. And so, you know, I suppose when you're in integrity, because when you show up as yourself, you just feel connected, and it doesn't matter what their reaction is, because you're not attached to their reaction. The irony is, I guess, when you try to paint yourself to be something that you're not, and you're looking for acceptance that way, they're accepting something that you're not. So if I show up in that conversation and I'm the best fitness trainer there ever was, and I talk about broccoli and sit-ups better than anyone ever did, they're like, wow, Pat, you did a great job. Which I've had those experiences, you know, in some areas. You go home and you're like, I didn't do a great job. So, yeah.
Yeah, that definitely resonates with me. I mean, I think we've talked about this before over the course of the week, but I really resonate with some of Marianne Williamson's work, as particularly her book, Return to Love. And what I've been thinking about a lot the last couple of weeks is this idea of making decisions or being in moments either in fear or in love. And what does that feel like? I don't mean just like what's the situation look like? I mean, actually, what does that feel like inside of a human body to just sit in a conversation? What does it feel like to be in love? What does it feel like to be anchored to that person you're talking to be connected to their eyes, versus fear is, like you said, off somewhere, stressing about something, planning something else, and not really being in the moment. I think that's a lot of what living in love is a sense of presence and like being anchored to the present moment. Would you agree?
Yeah, so I use the kind of example of your heart always knows the way, your gut, your soul, whatever you want to call it, always knows what's the right move. But your head talks it out of doing certain things. So you'll see someone and they'll say, what do you think I should do? I don't like my job. And it's like, that's a stupid question, because you know what you should do if you don't like your job. But your head's giving you 100 reasons to stay there. So your gut always kind of has this, I don't know, there's excitement, sometimes there's fear, but you always know there's something you want to do. Like if you're ever at a talk or a seminar, and I've caught myself on this, and I'm still like this, go to a talk or a seminar, and you want to share something, like you're sat in the audience and you want to put your hand up and you're kind of fighting with it. That initial feeling you get in your gut that says put your hand up is love, because you're trying to share, and then your head gets in the way. It's like, oh, maybe it's not that valid, maybe it's not that important, maybe I've spoke too much already, whatever it is. So I think that's how you know, to some degree. You feel it in your body, But then again, your head gets noisy, your head gets busy, your head gets loud, and you get in your own way. I always say it's like the diving board. Fear is like the diving board. The longer you stand on the diving board, the more stories you come up with in your head as to how it's going to go wrong. So like if I jump straight away, I'm all good. But if I stand there for 20 minutes, I think about, oh, there could be scary monsters in the water. I could fall and break my leg. I'll talk myself out of doing anything. You see this in people that stay stuck in a relationship or a career for a long time. They just convince themselves of how bad things are going to be if they make the move they want to make. So I think that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking about your TED Talk, because you did a TED Talk in Galway. That's correct.
Great.
And there's this one part where you talk about, you won an award, correct? We were honored in 2014. You got some Young Entrepreneur Award. And there was something about you being given an award for the best gym. And I love this part, and I'll let you tell it because you didn't have a gym.
Yeah, so my lowest point was Christmas 2011. I moved home from Dublin. So I lived in Dublin. I was going to be successful up in the big city. I'm from a smaller place. And I moved to Dublin. Ego, not in what maybe the mainstream would see as an egotistical way. I was still shy and quiet. I wasn't brash or anything like that. But I was ego in the sense of I want people to think that I'm important. And so I spent 18 months struggling, trying to get a business off the ground and working different odd jobs and all that kind of stuff. Too stubborn to come home, saying I had failed. But ultimately I had to come home. I had borrowed money from everyone I could. I had nothing left, couldn't pay the rent. And so my dad rang me on Christmas Eve. He said, when are you home to see your family? And I broke down and started crying in the middle of a clothes shop that I was working in and said, hey, I'm going to have to borrow €15 to get the bus home. I don't have any money. Things aren't going as well as I kind of made them seem. And so I got the bus home. I cried for 3 hours on the bus home, just feeling like the biggest failure you can imagine, surrounded by people I would have grown up with because everybody was coming home for Christmas and it's this time where everyone's excited. And I just felt lost. I just felt like, everyone had told me this isn't going to work. And I was adamant it was going to work, and it hadn't worked in terms of getting a business off the ground. And so my mum's birthday was Christmas Day, and I cried into a birthday card. Cried into a birthday card saying, I'll take you out to lunch when things get better. I can't get you a gift right now. And borrowed money for Christmas presents for my little brothers and sister. And that was my lowest point. And fast forward, I guess, 12 months, and I won the best gym in Galway. And that was my chance to bring my mum out to lunch, which I promised her. And I didn't have a gym. I just had the beach. I used to train people on the beach, but I had 100 people on the beach, and I was just making them feel something. So I always said that all the other gyms that were in the nominations had jacuzzis and saunas and fancy equipment and marketing budgets, and I had nothing but just me showing up as myself. And that was a proud moment to get to do that.
Yeah, you created a community. You gave people a place to belong. You didn't need the fancy equipment. You invited people to be a part of actually co-creating something really magical. And I think that's why it was probably so successful. I mean, you said yourself that the beach is not an ideal place, where you were, because it's just rainy all the time. And you talk about that first day on the beach, showing up, and you were doing visualizations. You were trying to manifest people showing up.
Like, there's going to be 20 or 30 people. I'm like, this is going to be great. And then 7 a.m. came and 5 people showed up and my heart jumped. I was so excited. And I said a lot of other people would have given up at that point because 5 is not magic. But one of the biggest mistakes I made in my first business was trying to get to 100 clients before I had one. And a lot of us do that. We jump ahead because we compare ourselves to other people. And so we never get our feet off the ground. We never get moving. So I was like, I'm going to start where I am. I'm going to do what I can, and I'm going to move forward from there. And I started with 5. And I cycled home so fast, and I was telling my family, and I was excited to tell everyone about my new business. And then I just said, look, if I'm the best part of these 5 people's day every day for the month, there'll be more. And then there was 20, and then there was 100. And eventually it went to 20,000 clients online in 4 years. So what is it? From little acorns, oaks do grow. And that's a big lesson, you know, in anything. Public speaking is the same thing, scariest thing in the world to me. I spent years thinking about how cool it would be to speak without actually going and speaking. But then I just said, right, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start coaching. I'm going to start anything, podcasting, you know, and just jump before I'm ready and then grow wings on the way down.
Yeah, I love that. I love this image of you biking home, you know, as fast as you can, just like feeling, you know, this is how I picture it, but you feeling the wind on your face, you being so jazzed up because you were at the bottom. I mean, you were really like, what am I doing? I'm working in this clothing shop. I'm doing all these other things. I'm trying to do this fitness coaching thing, and I'm a fake, you know, or I can't do it. And but you set your mind to it. You had these 5 people. You're on your bike. You're riding home, and you are just cracked open. I mean, you're just seeping in all the goodness that the universe had to offer you. And this is why I think that largely you became successful very quickly, is because you weren't biking home saying, well, shit, I only got 5 people. You were saying, oh my gosh, I found something. I'm here. I'm showing up for this work. I'm showing up for these 5 people. And those 5 people felt it. And then they went and they told their friends.
Yep.
And that's how it grew. So what we're really talking about here is energy and thought and feeling and embodying really the best and most delicious parts of life in order to invite more of it in.
Yeah. And the irony I always tell people is I was at my lowest point. I was, like I say, broken, isolated, depressed, alone, no confidence, even with those 5 people showing up. And there was a part of me, it's funny, when your back's against the wall, sometimes you come out fighting or you can kind of cower away. But there was a part of me that to just back myself into a corner, that if 5 people show up, I have to teach this class for 45 minutes and I have to show up. And I see it's like sometimes you see your friends have kids and stuff, and as soon as they have kids, they get out of their own way and they stop living in fear to some degree because they've got something bigger to do it for. And for me, the something bigger to do it for was just, I don't want to be depressed anymore. I don't want to be broke on Christmas anymore. And so I showed up with nothing in terms of spirit, but I cultivated something, and the 5 people in front of me could have been at lower points if there was such a thing, or they could have been at higher points, but they needed someone to believe in them. And when I did that, it became reciprocal. And so you don't need to be, that was my other kind of realization. When I was in Dublin, I said, when I become well known, when I have 100 clients, when I have money, when I have fancy equipment, then people will believe in me. But no, when you believe in people, they will believe in you. So that was kind of it.
It's like this energy circuit. And I'm thinking of, you know, you and I both experienced really deep periods of depression at various points in our life. I know for myself, when I was at my lowest moments, not being able to anchor to any sense of why my life was really worth it. The only thing that I could do during those worst days was to go out and ask other people what they needed, which sounds so strange because I had nothing to give, or like you said, you know, it's like my energy was just so low, but I was almost, at some point it becomes showing up for other people, and that gives you this, it's a miracle. It gives us a sense of belonging, a sense of connectedness, because we're not meant to live our lives separately. That's just not how I believe it's supposed to be. And I even think about mothers, you know, like mothers who are going through a really tough time, but they just keep showing up for their kids and sometimes saying, you know, my children were what saved my life. Just having something to show up for is amazingly important. You also talk about in your TED Talk this idea of the world is a mirror.
Yeah. So TED was probably 4 years ago now, and even at that time, or when was TED? 2015. Yeah, 4 years ago now. At that time, that was a recognition. The world is a mirror. When you go out there and you shine, people will shine back towards you. And equally, when you see bad, I mean, we all know this to some degree with energy. But I said that at that time, not maybe fully understanding, and probably still not fully understanding. I've got a better grasp of it now. But yeah, it was just that recognition that what you want in life is in you already. You just have to go and give it to other people. So my experience from the time I was a kid was bullied a little bit as a kid, and so I felt isolated. And then I went to school, And I had imposter syndrome in school because I met a bunch of friends, but I was thinking in the back of my head, someday they're going to find out what I know about myself, that I'm not cool. So I was always kind of hiding. And then it was college, and there was a lot of alcohol, which was to mask a lack of confidence. And then when I came into the real world to be an adult, it was, well, I'm going to be successful, and being successful is going to make me feel good enough. So it was always the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, because I felt isolated, and I just felt like I wasn't good enough. That was always my fueling thing, was I'm not good enough. And so when I came to realize that other people have that same thing of not feeling good enough and not feeling a part of something, I said, rather than wait for some magic thing to happen where it all falls into place for me, what if I made other people feel good enough by encouraging them and kind of acknowledging their mini wins in an exercise class? You know, I said, if someone comes to me in a fitness class and they do their first push-up, I'm going to celebrate that more than maybe anything else they have to celebrate in their life, because maybe the home life is not good, maybe their work life is not good. And equally, I'm going to make them feel a part of something. So I think what you're lacking in life, you need to go and give it. It's like sometimes you see people that are waiting for their parents to tell them they love them, rather than going and saying it themselves and being the first one to say it. Like, don't wait to be the first one to say it. Don't wait to be the first one to reach out, whatever it is. If you want the thing, go and do the thing, because otherwise you're living in expectation. You're thinking other people are supposed to figure your stuff out for you. Other people are supposed to fall into place for you. And that's not the way to live, I think.
Yeah, you're giving your power away, essentially. You're putting the ball in somebody else's court instead of creating your own reality. That really resonated with me when you said that part about the world as a mirror, and you also said, something about don't ever think you're not in a position to start helping people or to start making a difference right now.
Yeah, that was my dad, and my dad and I are like polar opposites in a lot of ways. Like, I'm kind of out there and I do my own thing, and I'm kind of I don't know, is loose cannon the word, but I kind of make it up as I go and stuff like that. And my dad's very structured, very traditional way of thinking, accountant mentality. So we're very different in a lot of ways, but he's one of my greatest teachers, and like, he's taught me so much. And when I was at that lowest point, I spent 6 months. There was a period between Christmas and 6 months later where I was working in a pizza shop when I moved home, living with my parents again. My little brother was 11 and had more money in the bank than me, which was funny at the time. Well, not funny at the time, but funny looking back. And my dad told me at that time, when it came to mental health, oftentimes I would be feeling sorry for myself. Going back to my teens, if I'd ever struggled with anxiety and stuff, I'd often fall into a loop of feeling sorry for myself and just feeling, woe me, and the world is against me, and I'm the only one that suffers with this stuff. And my dad would be quite, kind of get on with it idea, not in a harsh way, but just in a like, let's be practical here. And he always told me, at that point when I was in the 6 months working the pizza shop, he said, look, if nothing's going right for you, go out there and do something for someone else and it'll make a difference. He said, go and volunteer for a charity, go and help someone, go and whatever it was, like, go and start helping people, and you'll get out of your own head, because you're just living in woe me at the moment. And that's because you're not doing anything outside of yourself. You go to work, you come home, you cry for a couple of hours, and that's your life. Like, you're not going to go anywhere from there. And that was what stemmed me to, the initial, my 5 clients didn't kind of fall out of nowhere. The way the 5 clients came about was I set up a Facebook page back then, and it was a free community for people to join. And I used to do free programs and free plans. And just by chance, I did a plan for someone for free, trying to be a service to people while I'm working in the pizza shop. And he sent me a before and after picture 3 months later, unprompted. He's like, hey, thanks so much. This is my results. I was like, wow. And I shared the results, and that's where the 5 people came from. So it was definitely my dad's push to me that it's kind of like people that say, I'll give it to charity when I'm rich. It's like, if you don't give it to charity now, you're probably not going to do it when you're rich. Or I'll be grateful when I'm rich. If you're not grateful now, you won't be in it. Whatever you want to be, you need to be now. And it can manifest into more over time. But someone who won't give $10 out of a $500 paycheck, it's probably not going to give away millions when they make billions,
Yeah. So. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm impressed with the research you've done on me.
Well, thanks, Pat. Pretty impressive. Yeah, that's so fascinating. When I listen to you speak about your dark times, of course, I think about mine. And I think this is the beauty of what we're doing right now, because people listening to this are having their own experiences and certain things are striking chords with them. But I'm recalling going into the cafe, the bakery around the corner, and ordering a coffee and really forcing myself to get out of bed that day, to just go do something, do anything. So, I mean, it took all my energy to just put clothes on and decide I was going to go down around the corner and just be out in public. And I remember ordering a coffee and looking at the barista and, you know, everybody's good morning. How are you doing? And I looked at them and I said, you know, I'm not the best today. I'm not doing the best today. And I just looked at them in the eyes and they completely softened and they stopped. You know, you could feel it. It was palpable. You could feel their energy go, ooh, whatever spiral was going on in their head, they lasered in on me. And for a moment, we were just two human beings looking at each other, being like, ah, shit, I feel you. Like, I've been there. And this barista was just like, yeah, what can I do? Like, what are you feeling? And we just got in a little conversation. And this barista and I eventually, over the course of time, because of that one interaction, started to become friends. And, you know, he would share with me about when something was happening with his girlfriend or whatever, and problems he was having, or a guest he had in town, and this and that. And it all opened because I was willing to show my belly first. I think this is huge. This is really, really huge. And I had this just the other day with a friend of ours who sent me a text about this podcast and said, I was really worried, or I was anxious about listening to your podcast because I've been seeing your presence online and your energy is just killing it, and it made me feel really insecure. And first of all, you know, you have no idea that someone's viewing your life that way. It's so surreal when that happens. And so I get this text from my friend and I just went, wow, like the bravery that took to send another woman a text saying, hey, your light is shining so bright, it's making me feel small, or I'm feeling small because of it. And thank you for the invitation to look at myself, to step up. And she said, I ended up listening to the podcast and I'm so glad I did because it just opened something up in me. And that's when I was gifted the opportunity to compliment her, to say, hey, there was some times where I was in a really strange place when I looked at your business, everything you're doing, and I went, wow, I want that. How does she have so much energy? How is she always on all the social media and all these things? And here I am sitting here crying about things, you know? So it was her bravery. It was her showing her belly first and coming to me with that vulnerability that allowed she and I to actually dissolve some of this toxic competition between females, to strengthen our friendship, to feel a sense of connection. And this is something that is so magical and so right beneath the surface that every single human has access to. We're just not tapping into it because I think most of the time we're kind of going about our day at just a little bit of sleep. Yeah.
I was surprised just from conversations we've had, and you know, we've been catching up with a bunch of people in New York this week, mutual friends and new friends and everything else, and it's taken me aback, I suppose, from the conversations, hearing what the perception of me would have been as to who I was and before people would have met me, or equally you'd be in a group of people and I'd pick up a perception of someone new that I was meeting, and then in a later conversation with someone else they'd say, hey, that guy's going through some hard times at the moment, or whatever it was. So the only thing you can be sure of the perceptions you have with other people are that they're wrong, you know, because we always think that we have people figured out, and it's all based on prejudice and, you know, like past experience and mirroring experiences we've had with other people in the past. We met at myself and yourself met at the mastermind back in Texas in March, the Aubrey Marcus mastermind, and that was 150 people or so coming together. And of course, with that many people and that much energy and everything else, you kind of quickly make your decisions on who that person is, maybe before having conversations. And in retrospect, I've connected with people that I didn't even get to talk to that weekend and stuff like that. And it was interesting to me to think back to the 150 people in the room and think, who were the people that I was hesitant to talk to and why? That's something I've been thinking about. Like, what was the preconceived notion I had as to who that person was? What does that mean about me? Who was I intimidated by? Who did I overlook? And what do those things mean? Because again, you walk into the room of 150 people, you're scanning the room subconsciously, you're deciding who this person is, what their what life they've had, what their motivations are, how generous or kind they are, whatever it is. But again, I'm starting to realize more and more that the perceptions we have of other people are more likely than not wrong. And it's probably a better way of going about the world, because you come with compassion and you make the assumption that, yeah, I'm ignorant until I get to know the person. So.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about this yesterday, I think, this idea of our biggest teachers being the challenging one. So in a situation like that's ironic, because you go in and you quickly start making friends with people who are like you.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And then immediately making these sweeping judgments about other people, you know, whether they're conscious or not. Because even if, you know, you consider yourself a kind person and an open person, which I'm sure we both do, it's insidious and sneaky, and it's part of the human condition. It's not something to even be judged. It really just is going to happen, where our brains, as quickly as they can, are trying to make all these assessments about, I mean, it's evolution, it's natural selection, it's us, you know, competing against each other to be the top monkey, basically. So we walk into a situation where our brains start doing this, and we start forming these groups, even though we all go in strangers. So I think it's really funny, because the people we probably should, what I'm hearing, is really pay attention to is the people that we maybe have an aversion to right away.
Yeah. I was talking to Owen. That's the guy I'm writing the book with. You met last week. And Owen's been to over 100 countries, and he's gone to some wild places. Like, he's been out in North Korea, Afghanistan. He's gone to some cool places. But in North Korea, he came back and everyone was saying, what's it like? Everybody's brainwashed there. And he's like, no, everybody's brainwashed everywhere. And we're brainwashed ourselves in that regard, because we hang around with the same social tribe for the most part. And so we think our views are our own, but the views we have are the views of the people that we've grown up around for the most part. Sometimes we learn to challenge the beliefs and stuff like that. But I presented a workshop out in the Middle East a couple of weeks ago. And if you're born out there, there's a high probability you're going to have one religious belief. Then the next week I'm in London doing a workshop. If you're born there, you're going to have a different religious belief. And then I'm doing a workshop in Ireland, different religious belief. Now, the only place those beliefs come from is the environment that those people grew up in. They were never, you don't learn anything as a kid, or you learn everything as a kid. You know love coming into the world, but everything else you learn. Religious beliefs, you learn fear, you learn, you know, everything else. And so we grow up with these preconceived notions as to how the world is and how it should be. And then our social circle backs it up and just makes it stronger and stronger. Even our social media feeds, like, we think, oh, social media opens up the world to possibility. It's like, no, your social media feed just creates the content that you already believe in and just gives you more of the same. It's not going to give you the alternate opinion to what you believe. So it is good to even be open. And that was something, again, Owen said. He said, I go to these 100 countries. He goes, I'm not going to go to 100 countries and just go in with my belief system. He said, I went to some hugely challenging places that some people would deem inhumane, the things that they do out there. But he's like, look, I'm there. I want to be as open as I can, and that's going to challenge me. But I want to get to know these people. I want to understand what their thought process is. Because, like, Stephen Covey's got that thing, seek first to understand and then to be understood. So don't go into the conversation or the interaction or the experience thinking, I need to change this person's opinion. First, you need to understand, where's the person coming from? What made them the way that they are? What's their belief pattern? And then you can come at it from approach of, okay, this is what I believe, and how do we bring it together to synergize?
You're reminding me of an interesting experience I had the other week in the park in New York, near Flatiron area. I saw this guy with a sign that said, "Is there a meaning to life?" And he was just sitting there with the sign. And I was like, this is interesting. I'm going to go up and talk to this man. And he, it turned out that he was someone that was there to spread the message about his religious beliefs. And I stood and listened to him for a while, and it was really interesting to watch the course of our conversation change. So when I first came up, he was very friendly, open, kind of feeling out where I was and what my belief system in God was. And I was telling him some of my story and the background of where I'd come from and different religious experiences that I've had. And at one point, he just kind of took a turn. And he was like, you need to get right with God, or said something like that to me. And I said, oh, like, I love God. I think God is everywhere and everything. And he was kind of like, well, you think God's in the trees and God is in this and that. And I was like, well, I do think God's in the trees. I think God is everywhere. And we started having this conversation, and he was getting a little bit frustrated with me, and I wasn't trying to change his mind, and I wasn't trying to tell him I wasn't going to change my mind either. I was just listening. And ultimately I said to him, you know what? I can tell how much this means to you. And I love that you found something that you feel so passionate about. And I said, I know how you feel. I know how you feel because oftentimes I learned something that I thought, if the world just knew this, everybody would be better. Or you see something that maybe one of your parents or your partner, your loved one is doing, and you go, man, if they could just fix that habit, if they could just eat a little healthier, or if they could just, I don't know, practice nonviolent communication or start meditating. And we kind of want to proselytize a little bit because it's worked so well for us. So I said to him, I realize how much you love this and how much you love God that you want to spread it to the world. I said, but God just is love, right? And we need to make sure that our actions in spreading any message, especially his message, is one of just unconditional loving. And I said, I'm going to tell you something about myself right now is I'm not feeling held in love in this conversation. And I feel your passion, but I am actually feeling a little unsafe. And I have to tell you that. I said, my heart isn't blossoming open to what you're saying because I'm feeling a little bit criticized and I'm feeling a little bit attacked. And I was looking at him deeply in the eyes, and I just watched his pupils change. I watched a wall go down in this man's eyes, and it was like something clicked. And he said, oh, well, I really want to give you this book. Can I give you this book? And I think you really need to read it. And I said, I'm so touched. Thank you so much for the offer. I said, I'm not going to take your book, and I will tell you why. And I said, a few moments ago, I might have taken the book. I might have. But now I'm feeling a little shut down. And the reason is I didn't feel like you met me on the bridge of where my heart was and where my understanding was. And this is, I think, what God is. This is what spreading love is meeting people where they're at and helping them along in their understanding, not forcing anyone over the bridge, not pulling anyone over the bridge. It's just saying, hey, here's what I have. Here's what I know. How does this feel with you? I said, that's not how I felt. And when you made an observation or maybe a snap judgment about what my relationship was or was not with God, that really shut my heart space down. And he nodded at me, and his face fell a little bit, and I felt bad because I could see that he felt a little shame, but at the same time, I saw this man recognize exactly what I was talking about, and he wished me well, and I walked away, and it was an incredibly powerful experience.
It's like the subtle difference between curiosity and judgment with the question why. Like, why are you the way you are, rather than why are those people like that, you know, and just shutting them down and judging and they shouldn't be like that. It's like genuinely being curious, like why does he show up the way he shows up, and or why do you show up the way you show up, and like you say, meeting people on the bridge and understand them and then seek to be understood from that new standpoint, because you got a different perspective. Once you understand someone, where they're coming from, you're not coming at them from the same place that you were 20 seconds before, 60 seconds before. You can pivot and everything can change because you've got an expectation going into the conversation. This is who this person is based on everything I know from my past. And if I'm just going to go in and try to change their mind before I've gotten a chance to see what they actually think and what they actually feel, I'm not giving them a chance or myself a chance.
Yeah, and the expectation is also based on your belief that like your way is right. And that the underlying assumption underneath all of that is that things are not right just as they are. And I have to use my will. I have to exert my will to change things and to change people. And that to me is something to be carefully and thoughtfully contemplated, because that means on some level your core belief system says like the universe is not right as it is.
Yeah.
You know, and I get it. It's a chaotic place to live. There's a lot going on. And if you kind of go all micro with these certain situations and you pay attention to the news and you see all the horrific things that are going on all the time, guns and wars and inequality and all these things, I mean, that can leak into your brain and create a very dangerous, scary picture about what is happening. But that's only 1% of the story. You know, there's so much else going on, and I prefer to operate in a reality where things are good and the universe has my back and things are just about to go right around the corner at every second. And this is not just something airy-fairy. This is something I've been training to do, Pat, because I've tried the other way and I almost completely lost myself. So we really, you know, you and I have talked about this multiple times across the week, but we really do have a choice about creating the experience of life that we want. That sounds like a grossly oversimplified statement, and in some ways it is, because there's a lot that goes into that. There's mental training, there's awareness and mindfulness and curating the circles around you and all of that. But everybody has influence over the experience of their reality right now.
I think, widening the perspective of how things have to be is the best tool you can give yourself, in terms of like the faster pace your life is, the more you're trying to do and get done, the more you're trying to achieve, the more stressed you are. Generally, the narrower your focus tends to be. So you will have a picture as what love looks like, what success looks like, what failure looks like, and you're going to have a very narrow picture of that. So success looks like €1 million in the bank. Love looks like hugs and kisses and 10 holidays a year, whatever it is. You've got this very narrow perspective, and you don't have a chance to widen the perspective because you don't give yourself any space. So all stress is derivated from a story in your head about how it should be, and then the world not looking that way. So if I'm stressed about my relationship, it's because I think my partner should be different to how they are. If I could accept the way they are or walk away, then the stress is gone. If I'm stressed about my business and me not being rich and famous, it's because I think I should be rich and famous. If I can accept reality, it comes down to accepting reality. It's like, where I live, it rains 300 days a year. I've got 3 options. I fight with myself for the rest of my life about the fact that I live somewhere where it rains 300 days a year. I get out of there, or I accept the fact that it rains 300 days a year, and I see the beauty in it. So it's like expectation is one thing, appreciation is something different. And when we can find appreciation for our situation, for our circumstances, for the people in our lives, it can just, again, that's one of the fastest ways of widening. I think, different ways of widening perspective. You got like appreciation rather than expectation. Okay, so I don't have a six pack, but I have healthy legs and I have a healthy body and my heart works and I can get up every day and move and I've got energy and I sleep. Okay, that makes me feel a bit better. That's one thing. Be curious rather than judgmental. So rather than why am I so fat, it's like, what are the things that I could do to make myself feel a little bit better? That gives you more perspective, makes you feel a bit more empowered. Journaling, which is kind of the same idea, like have a conversation with yourself rather than always looking outward. Get out the pen and paper and explore that question. How would I be healthier? What would the simple steps I could take to be healthier? And then meditation, because meditation is just going to give you space between, I suppose, what a stimulus and response. So when I get stressed, if I can do a couple of box breaths or I can just chill a little bit, it's like, okay, I get to choose my reaction rather than just be snappy like an animal. You throw a ball, a dog's going to run after a ball because that's what animals do. They just like react to every situation. But we've got free thought and we've got, this ability to choose. But we forget that sometimes.
I love what you said about the space in between stimulus and response, because I believe it's Viktor Frankl says in the space in between stimulus and response is your power and your freedom. Yeah, I love that. And that reminds me of another quote. I can't think of it, the exact wording of it right now, but the idea is that the beauty in a piece of music is in the pause. It's in that space in between. It's that delicious, lingering silence. When I used to teach children's choir, I would tell the kids, after we finish a song, don't giggle, don't poke your partner, nothing. Just stand there. Be in the beautiful container that you've just created. Feel the buzzing. There's a very real buzzing after you finish a song like that. And I said, the audience is going to feel it. Let them feel it. Let them celebrate what you've just done. So it's that idea of a sacred pause. And that can be employed in any moment throughout our entire day. Even if it's in the shower, I'm going to consciously pause my thought. Or I talk about this one a lot, but when you're in the car and you park your car before you get out to go do whatever you're doing, just to pause and do nothing for 30 seconds. It's probably going to be uncomfortable if you've never even done that before. You're itching to just go and you're like, this is stupid. Why am I sitting here? Sometimes I get like that in meditation. In the middle of my meditation, I'll go, well, I usually do 20 minutes, but maybe I'll just cut 5 off today. And that's when I'll go, no. Very tricky, mind. You're going to stay here because you have so much to do. You're going to stay here. That's exactly why you're going to take this long pause and feel. It's not about meditating when you always feel good. It's about exactly meditating when you feel anxious and stressed, because that's the warrior training. That's fighting against an opponent that's really, you've met your match. It's an art. So that's what's on my mind about all that. I don't know if you have thoughts.
I've got this might be a bit off tangent, but so I do my jiu-jitsu. It's like my biggest passion. 2 things that have changed my life the last couple of years. I talk about all the external success that I would have had with the 20,000 clients and the money raised for charity and the gym and the books and all these things. I lost the love for fitness a couple of years ago, despite all this, and I just kind of walked away from fitness very quickly. So I passed my gym to someone. It was kind of a transitional period. Gym was passed to a friend of mine. I stopped doing the online fitness courses I was doing. I pretty much walked away from fitness when my stuff was at its peak back in Ireland. And it was a case of, I kept saying, I'll be happy when, and it was when I get the house, when I get the car, when I achieve the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I found myself at 27 with my house and my car and my success and my books and all these things. And I still just felt anxious and I felt insecure and I felt a lot of things I didn't want to feel. And so at that point I was like, right, let's not play that game anymore because that's not been working. And then I became, I got into the meditation, the journaling, more the personal development, coaching, mentoring, all these different things. But one of the most profound things, very simple, but had a big impact on me, was like the daily practices. So jiu-jitsu and meditation are my two staples. And that changed my life because I found that most of those two things actually in mountaineering as well. Because I found when my 20s was, when I get to the top of the mountain, I'll be happy, rather than enjoying the climb to the top of the mountain. And you'd have a momentary feeling of, oh, I'm here, I achieved something. Then the next day there's another mountain. There's always going to be something else to do. And so by putting daily practices in, it was like, I'm not waiting 90 days until I reach a certain body weight to feel happy. I'm going to enjoy every day of the journey. So what are the things you enjoy? So started doing jiu-jitsu, started doing meditation, started climbing mountains. And the beauty of the mountains are you're 28 days on a mountain to stand on a mountain top for 15 minutes. So you better enjoy the journey and not be obsessed with the destination. The meditation and jiu-jitsu was just a case of getting out of your head and being present, and there was a community aspect to me with the jiu-jitsu, a lot of different things. Anyway, with the jiu-jitsu, for a while I was telling people I'm training 5-6 times a week, and then we brought in these log books, which are like every time you train, your coach signs your book like a kid, and the coach starts signing my book, and after a couple of weeks I'm like, oh shit, I'm only actually training 3 days a week. So it made me very honest with myself, and I think anything you get on paper makes you more honest. And then I changed my routine and I got it up to 5-6 days a week. But what I noticed at the end of filling one of these log books, you got like 60 stamps in a log, and then you do a promotion. But at the end of 60 stamps, I'd look at it and I'd say, I've no idea which of those days I felt anxious, what days I was tired, what days I was, whatever it might be, happy, sad, what was a good session, what was a bad session. All I know is I showed up for myself every day for those 60 days. The same thing for meditation. So it's a little tool that people might want to use, is like find a way of tracking. Jerry Seinfeld used to do this thing with his jokes where every day he'd write a joke, just one joke a day, and he put a big red X in his calendar, and he would never break the streak. And the logic was, if I keep doing that long enough, there'll be some good ones in there. So it's kind of what you're saying about like the meditation is most important on the days where you don't want to do it. I travel a lot now with talks and seminars, and it's like that's the time your routine goes out the window, but that's the time when you need the energy the most. And so it's like, right, what are my daily rituals? And just picking anyone listening to this, if they were to pick one or two things that they already do or they've done in the past or they just know bring more joy to their life, put those two things in your life, get a little chart or planner that you can check in with, set a low expectation. So don't tell yourself you're going to meditate for an hour a day, just saying I'm going to do 5 minutes. And if you do your 5, chances are you're going to sit there for a little bit longer. You might get 20 minutes. But if you say you're going to do 20 every day, that might be a little bit more than your, sometimes we've got massive expectation as to what we should do. And then there's procrastination because it seems like an insurmountable thing. But if you lower the expectation, lower the bar, it's like that, like going running. The hardest part of a run is the first 5 minutes. So getting started is the main thing. Mm-hmm. That's a bit of personal development there for you.
That's such a dance between kindness and self-compassion, and being realistic about what you can actually do. And I think the fear for a lot of people is, well, I can't be kind to myself or I'll never achieve anything. So that's something that I think a lot of people dance with, and I think that's a really good way of finding that balance, is setting a smaller goal. I'm thinking of the book, The War of Art.
Yeah.
You've read that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a fantastic book for anybody who is facing this idea of resistance in their life.
Yeah.
That was transformative for me, at least.
I worked with a client recently, and she's like you. She's doing a million different projects and different things, and she's got an acting school. She's writing screenplays. She's doing jazz singing. She's got a bunch of different things going on. But she was beating herself up about the fact that she wasn't hitting as many words as she wanted to hit every day in her word count or for her writing. So I said, what's the expectation? She said, I want to write for 2,000 words a day. And so we switched it for 30 days. I said, right, we want 250 minimum words a day. That's the expectation. And the irony of it was she ended up hitting probably 2 or 3 times the amount she had done previous, because the expectation was so small that she was excited to sit down and write 250 words. And generally she'd keep going. Some days she would only hit the 250 mark. But because it was such an easy target to go after, she found her flow a lot of those days. So you got 30 days in the month where you're doing anything and you've got a really low expectation. Same thing with healthy eating. If someone wants to eat healthy all the time, coming from not eating healthy, it's a big expectation. Any little blip you have from the plan, you feel like a failure. You like say, screw it, I got a flat tire, I'm just going to slash the other 3. You know, that's the mentality, all or nothing. If you were to say, I'm going to eat a healthy breakfast every day for the next 30 days, chances are 10 of those days you're going to say, well, I had a healthy breakfast, might as well keep the momentum going, I'm going to do a healthy lunch. And then you're like, well, 2 out of 3, might as well get dinner right. So there's a magic in that, like small changes, small hinges swing big doors. But we forget that sometimes. It's just this idea of the compound effect, like what small things can make a big impact on your life. The person that's been thinking about, I just know this from myself, you know, from living in my head and thinking about doing things for so long. It's like the person thinking about writing a book for the last 10 years, write 2 pages of a book for the next 90 days. You pretty much got a book done. Write 1 page a day for the next 6 months. You've got a book done. Write half a page every day for the next year. You've got a book done. But stop waiting and stop putting the expectations so high. We all overestimate what we can do in the short term. And then the reverse is true.
We create these mammoth tasks. Like we make everything so big. And I think this comes back to the idea we were talking about of getting out of your own way. You know, because what was really jailing your friend was her own projection of a high word count being the measurement for success. That was herself. Nobody else was saying you're a failure except for her.
Yeah. And here's one of the ironies of success with anything. It doesn't have to be external success. It could be your own thing. So let's say you write 500 words a day and that's kind of what you do. And then there's some day where this inspiration comes from nowhere and you're down the coffee shop and you look at, it's lunchtime, you've written 2,000 words. You're like, wow. To some degree, we compare ourselves to society, and then we also compare ourselves to our past results. So my new normal is 2,000 words. I did that yesterday. I should be able to do that today. And so we're always comparing today to our best day. That could be the gym. That could be whatever it is. And look, it's great to think you could do 2,000 words every day, but you're going to be churning out more books than Stephen King in the next 6 months, you know. But it's great to have those targets. And it's not saying, oh, I have to, you know, always live at the same levels of expectation for myself. You should be raising the bar for yourself to some degree. But we do compare our best day to, or every day to our best day. And not every day is going to be your best day. But the power of showing up is something special. It's like if you show up for yourself every day, you'll have, think about anything. Think about workouts, think about writing, think about, I don't know, date nights, think about anything. If 8 out of 10 are not a massive success and 2 out of 10 are pretty good, by showing up every day, you're going to get a lot of, you know, value from that. There's going to be a lot more good days than you would have had otherwise. But yeah, creating these habits and sticking with things even when they're not going so well. It's the same as what I was saying about meditation. But I'm really curious. So for people listening to this who are all fired up now just to create their small habits and try something new, they have a moment, they're trying these new small habits, and they mess up. So we're there. We're now in that moment of feeling the guilt, feeling the failure, the tightening in the chest, the drop in the stomach, looking in the mirror, feeling like a piece of shit, don't have the 6-pack, you know, failed again at didn't do my meditation, whatever it was. The embodiment of that grimy, gross, self-loathing feeling. How do we U-turn when we are in that moment? So one way is an exercise called strategic confidence. And this is the idea that confidence comes from certainty. We're confident when we're certain of something. And certainty comes from the past. So I can be certain about what happened last week, but I can't be certain about the future because the future only carries uncertainty. So most people are always looking forward, like what's next, what's next, what's next, what's next, what's on the to-do list. When you look at your to-do list from today, you don't acknowledge what you got done, you acknowledge the stuff that's left on the list that you didn't get done. So if confidence comes from certainty and certainty comes from the past, then our confidence comes from the past. So the exercise I would get people doing is 4 parts. The first 2 relate to the past. The next 2 relate to the future. So the first question you ask yourself is, what was a mini win for me in this area recently? So take the example of someone who has signed up to the gym in January. This is a good example, actually. If you think about January, December, people fall off the wagon. They're spending time with family and friends. They're having a lot of drinks, a lot of food. They don't train. They do nothing for their health, we'll say, which is cool or fine. It's okay. January comes, they make massive changes. They're hitting 3 gym sessions a week. They're getting yoga. They're eating well. They're drinking lots of water. They're taking their supplements. Massive changes. They do that for 6 weeks. And then their friends come to visit in February and they go out and go wild for a weekend. Lots of drinks, partying, everything else. All they can think about on Monday morning is the 2 days of failure and completely forget about the 6 weeks of success. So I'd get them to pause. What was a mini win for you in this area? Well, for 6 weeks, I did yoga once a week and I did 3 training sessions a week. That very quickly changes the energy from I messed up to, wow, I've actually made some progress here. Second question you would ask is, why is it relevant? So you ask, what was the win? Why is it relevant? It's relevant because I've shown myself when I have a plan and when I plan out my weeks, I'm pretty consistent and actually do pretty good. When I can stick to things. Those are the first 2 questions, what and why. Second 2 questions, how do I build upon this? Kind of in a bigger picture, how do I build upon this? Well, I get back into the routine of hitting 3 to 4 gym sessions a week and I let go of this guilt. Last question is, what's one immediate action step I can take? Because that's where the confidence comes from, is actually actioning things. I'm going to jump on the app right now and I'm going to book my next yoga class. That pulls you from feeling like a failure to very quickly being back on track. So it's what happened? Why is it relevant? So what was the mini win? Why was it relevant? And then how do I build upon it in a bigger sense? And what's one tangible action step? It just changes the energy quick. So anyone listening to this, if you're in a slump, not even if you're in a slump, it's a good one to do anyway. We're on June as we record this. I don't know when this is going to come out, but we're a couple of months into 2019, more than halfway. What were 3 wins you've had this year so far? So you might say, got a new job, went on a couple of dates, and I've been to the gym pretty consistent. Why are each of those things relevant? How do I build upon each of those things in a bigger sense? And what's one immediate action step? Because you never know 10 steps ahead, but you know the next thing you could do. So that works really well.
I love that. I love that one immediate action step, because it's so easy to get just stuck in the thought and loop and start reinforcing that neural pathway, that negativity bias, and then you drop your vibration, you create your spiral for your whole day. And that can become a habit too, right? I mean, we're in every moment we're choosing how we are habituating our life. So if you don't choose that immediate action of booking that yoga class or deciding you're going to do something slightly different, what you actually are passively probably choosing is a negative thought that is going to become a negative action and a negative habit. Yeah.
It would be really cool if anyone listening to this would kind of tag us or something and let us know something you've done, because Tony Robbins has a quote, and some people love Tony and some people don't love Tony, but he's one of the gurus of personal development over the years. And Tony has a quote that it's in our moments of decision that our destiny is formed, something to that effect. And I've often thought about that like sometimes life forces a decision on you. So you go through a breakup and you're like, I got to move out of my place. You get fired and you're like, I got to go back looking for a job. You get divine inspiration. You're like, I got to start a business. Whatever it is, sometimes life just puts it there for you. But that's quite a reactive way to live. And a lot of people are there, like most of the population are there. Like when I get into a desperate enough position, then I'll make a change. Or when I get so inspired, I'll make a change. And then there's this bit in the middle where everything's okay. I call it like hunger in paradise. It's hard to be hungry when you're in paradise. And a lot of us are in paradise because our life is good. But how do you change your life? You keep making decisions. Like, don't stay comfortable where you are. Like, anyone listening to this, your decision could be, well, I'm going to register that domain name I've been thinking about for a long time. I'm going to do the acting class I've been promising myself for years. The thing that I'm saying someday I'm going to do, I'm just going to decide. Because look, if you don't make decisions for yourself, be sure that life is going to put them at you in the next couple of years, you know, and you don't want that. You want to feel, we talked about this yesterday, we're all going to struggle in life. We're all going to have stress in life. That's an uncomfortable truth. We're all going to have problems and challenges and stuff to overcome. But we do get to decide what level of problems we have. And that's one thing I've been doing with my coaching clients recently, is saying, tell me 2 problems that you're not willing to be dealing with in 6 months, because we need to make room for new, bigger problems. So 2 of mine was like, oh, I'm always all over the place with my accounts, and every 2 months go to my accountant, and it's a pain in the ass, and I have to spend 2 days. So at the start of this year, I was like, that's something I've been saying for years. I'm going to work through and just box that off and make room for a bigger problem. It's like someone that runs a business. You can be micromanaging everything, but that's just stopping you from doing the stuff that really moves the needle. But it's the same for all of us in life. We gossip, or we procrastinate, or we binge watch YouTube, or whatever it is, but we're doing certain things to stop us from doing the next thing. I'm going off on a tangent now, but it would be cool for people to just say, okay, in my destiny is shaped by my decisions. And I could spend the next year thinking about the book, or thinking about the acting classes, or thinking about starting jiu-jitsu, or thinking about starting meditation. Or I can just pause this podcast right now and go and do it. I was at a seminar years ago in Costa Rica, and Lisa Nichols was speaking. She's in that book, The Secret. And I was so inspired by her talk that I left the room in the middle of her talk. And I ran back to my hotel room, and I took out my video camera. And I said, guys, it's my 28th birthday tomorrow. I'm going to launch a course. It's €28. I want to sell 1,000 units. We're going to give the €28,000 to mental health awareness in Ireland for suicide prevention. And within 24 hours, we had raised 28 grand for suicide prevention in Ireland. And it stemmed from like, if I had waited and I had thought about it, I would have overthought it. I would have been like, oh, people are going to think it's daft. People aren't going to want to pay this, that, the other, or I'm just not going to do it. So again, learn to lessen the gap between feeling it in your body, I want to do this thing, and actually doing it. If you feel it, if you listen to this and you feel something, you're like, I know what the thing is, because we all know, like, it's there. You know, you've just been getting in your own way. Like, just go and do it. And that's an action. And like, you learn to jump off the diving board quicker and quicker and quicker. And then there's points where you need to slow it down. You need to be like, right, I'm being a bit too reactive. I'm just like jumping on everything here, because I've been there too. Like, you got to plan sometimes as well. But I think there's periods of both. There's periods of contraction where you're kind of like, okay, reassess, where am I going in life? And then there's periods of, right, action the thing, action the thing, action the thing.
I think you're so right that people listening to this right now are like, oh my gosh, they're talking directly to me. There's that thing that I'm feeling in my stomach that I know I'm being called to do.
For me, I'll make myself accountable. One of mine is I want to host an ecstatic dance in Ireland, because it's one of those things. We did it in Texas.
Okay,
and
I'll fly over for it.
Do. I'll be under pressure. But it's one of those things. We did it in Texas, and it was the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I said, oh, I wish they had this where I'm from. And then it's like, well, stop wishing and go and do it yourself, and stop being that guy. Stop giving away the power. Yeah.
And I've been thinking about, it feels like everybody's rereading The Alchemist lately. You've read that book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Oh, you haven't read it.
I read it years ago. I didn't get anything from it, to be honest, at the time. And I always feel weird saying that, because so many people credit. I know you credit as your favorite book, and a lot of people do. I'll give it another go. Yeah, well,
there's just a line from that book that says, when you truly want something, all the universe conspires to help you. And I think that's true. Like, when we align our energy, that excitement of you going back to your hotel room and just saying, I'm going to do this now, and you poured your energy into it. I really think that's kind of like the laws of the universe, where we pour our energy, there has to be a reaction to that. And there's a subtlety here that I think is really important to note, which is you can pour your energy into something and trick yourself into thinking you're doing it in a positive way. Right? But if there's a feeling inside of your body of, I'm actually doing this out of fear, like, I got to build this business now or my family's not going to eat, or I have to fix my body. I have to get that 6-pack, or I'm going to be unlovable, or I'm going to, I want to do this so that I look hot. That's different. That's a different vibration. We talked about doing things out of fear or love. And you talked about just now being able to tell, like, we all know in our gut where we're acting from. And you're probably getting butterflies listening to this, because a lot of people, that's a hard thing to hear. It's hard when you feel that tickle in your stomach and you know what you have to do. It's uncomfortable.
There's another way you might look at this, and everyone's got their own definition, but I look at motivation versus inspiration. And motivation is this very temporary thing that will get you through a workout, or it'll get you through the day, or it'll get you through the week of work. It'll get you maybe some money in the bank when you need to pay the rent. It's like a quick fix kind of thing, motivation. And I have this belief you can't motivate people to do things they don't want to do on a consistent basis. And that's why a lot of us struggle, because I'm trying to do things I think I should do. And should is an expectation that comes from someone else. And so I think I should have a six pack. So that's why I keep trying to motivate myself. I keep struggling. I can't stay consistent. What about assessing, like, what's the thing I can't stay motivated with, and what's a different approach I could take? So motivation is like the battery in your phone. It's going to die pretty quickly. Inspiration is plugging it into the mains. So inspiration is like, why do I really want what I want? And that's like kind of talked about a lot. Why do I want what I want? But like really tap into that. Why? I think it's huge.
Yeah. This idea of what's your why. And this is probably exactly what some of the things you touch on in your book, because in the entrepreneur world, this idea of what is your why, and really knowing why you're doing something is so important. And sometimes we set arbitrary goals. It's like, oh, I want to hit this financial milestone, or I want to do this with my body, but we're completely ignoring the why, and then we're wondering why this thing hasn't manifested. I've been wanting it for so long. I mean, this law of attraction stuff is not working. It's not coming into my life. Well, no, because you need to understand your why very clearly, and then you need to become the embodiment of that feeling before the thing happens, in order to attract it. So you need to start finding ways to playfully look at yourself in the mirror and be like, oh, your skin looks vibrant today. Or, I feel us getting better. I feel us getting fitter. Not like you look like a piece of shit and you ate an ice cream cone last night at 10 p.m.
Because your mind always gives you answers, right? So if you ask the question, why am I so fat? Your mind is clever. It gives you reasons why you're so fat. Oh, it's your genetics. And
Right.
And if you ask, like, well, how could I get a little bit healthier?
Right. And I was listening to an audiobook by Jerry and Esther Hicks, some of the Abraham teachings. I think it's the one on the manifestation of money, but they cover a variety of topics, and they talk about, I just lost my train of thought. They talk about, it'll come back if it's important. I don't remember now. That happens. Wasn't meant to be.
You have to buy the book.
Surrender. Yeah. Wow.
But that motivation piece, again, it could be something practical. I love to give practical stuff for people. If maybe explore, where's an area I've been struggling to stay consistent. For me, grew up in a fitness background, did the fitness thing for years, became a fitness trainer, and then I lost all interest in fitness. So I didn't want to train in the gym anymore, because I'd grown up in it, and it just became, again, ego when I was younger. I want to be fit, I want to be strong, I want to be big, I want like people to have this shell of it. I think a lot of guys put on this shell of armor because it makes them feel protected from like being vulnerable or whatever it might be. And then when I got to my mid-20s, it was like I just couldn't motivate myself to go back to the gym. And I would try every couple of months. I'm going to motivate myself. I should be going to the gym. I'm a fitness trainer. I should. Again, other people's expectation. And then I sort of stood back, and I kind of assessed, right, why do I want to go to the gym? Well, I want to be healthy. I want to have energy. I want to be doing something for myself. What else do I need in life? Well, I need community, because I don't own my gym anymore. I've passed that on to a friend, so I need community. And I just reassessed, and it was like, okay, well, jiu-jitsu would be a different way of going about this. Rather than lifting weights, which you haven't been able to do for a long time because you can't stay consistent, how could you fulfill upon the thing that you want to do? It's just every goal that we're going after is for a feeling. So if people were to assess, like, what do I want from this situation? I want to be rich. Okay, why do you want to be rich? Because I want some freedom, and I want people to respect me, and Okay, how else could you get freedom and people to respect you?
Right.
Yeah.
That kind of ties back to what I think I was going to say, but there's this idea of, so like looking in the mirror, say you have this moment of feeling unsatisfied with yourself. That's where you hit pause, and you say to yourself, okay, how do I want to feel? If this is not it, then how is it that I want to feel? And focus on that feeling. And then this ties into, I'm getting you hooked on Tara Brach.
Yeah.
And I was listening to one of her talks yesterday while I was driving. She quotes this other Buddhist teacher who discusses two wings of mindfulness, kind of intention and attention. And I love that. So when we find ourselves in a moment of not feeling a good feeling, becoming aware, that's the attention, and shifting it with an intention to feel different. And there's a time I'm thinking of recently where I was, you know the full story, but I was going through a lot and I was dealing with some suffering. And in this process of trying to let this suffering go, I was feeling really attached to it. And so much so that it was like, if I didn't know if I let go this part of my story, who I would be. And that, of course, was perpetuating the suffering. And I was like feeling like I was losing my identity. And the only thing that finally gave me any relief from feeling like I was just being pelleted by these waves of suffering and being obliterated. Like I use the metaphor of being a paper boat in the ocean, because that's really what it felt like. The thing that shifted it for me was the recognition of, can I let this go? Can I let this go? Can I let this go? I don't know, but I want to. It was the but I want to that changed everything. Because in that moment of wanting to, there was a forgiveness of myself for not being able to previously. And that just opened up the floodgates for me to accept myself. And then from there could really not push through it, melt through it and choose a different way. Pat Divilly, thank you so much. I was going to say, how can people find you, your work? How can they get your books? How can they get your amazing course that you just sent me on meditation that I'm so excited to dive into? Tell me about all that.
PatDivilly.com is my website. So DIVILLY.com. I've got a podcast called the Pat Divilly Podcast, and I'm on all the social platforms. So that is kind of me. I appreciate you having me, and it's been a good week here in Brooklyn. So thank you for hosting me, and yeah, it's been good.
Thank you so much, Pat.